welcome to another video from EarnPed.com. I am Stevie B. Happy to have you all with us today. So I actually shot this video a little bit earlier this morning. I tried to do my rendition of Scotty Doesn't Know, and it was not very good. I can't sing, guys. Scotty Doesn't Know is a great song, but it just didn't work for me. So I wanted to reshoot this video. I hate having to do that because what I'm going to do in this video, I did in that first video live for the very first time. I'd done no advanced research on this. I had not tested it beforehand to see if I was going to be right, because when I put information out there, I'm willing to do one of two things. I'm willing to either say, hey, new information came to light, I found new information out, I was wrong about something, or I'm willing to just do something to try and prove my theory right there on the spot. And unfortunately, my horrible rendition of Scotty Doesn't Know kind of made it where I can't do that, so I'm having to reshoot it, so I already know the result, which I don't really like as much, but here we are. So while I'm doing some space flying, I want to talk to you guys more about the damage per peck / efficiency argument from the last video, because now I've got people like Scotty, whoever Scotty is, calling me out saying, oh, Stevie's wrong, or something like that. I don't know what exactly was said. I just got a private message while I was at work, and it was like, hey, they're calling you to do a video on it on YouTube, so here we are. I will shoot this video, and then I'm just going to leave the subject to lie. You can think what you want to think. You can play how you want to play. I'm just going to put the information out there. What you do with it is up to you. If you're still convinced I'm wrong after this, I do not know what to tell you. Other than maybe learn the definition of right versus wrong. So first of all, let's talk about something called game recycling. So this is something we see not just in Entropia, but we see throughout just human behavior as well as video games. So generally speaking, when you're a programmer or when you're doing something, you're not going to destroy something that you've built and then just build something new from scratch. That very rarely ever happens. Now, we do see people that will take a home that needs renovation and fix it up. We don't see them tear it all the way to the ground, right? There's a reason for that, cost and time. Same with video games. The best example I can come up with is like the 2K6 franchise or 2K7 or whatever it is. They don't have to go in and they don't have to constantly redo the same game mechanics. The game mechanics are already there. They don't have to go in and constantly change the backgrounds. The backgrounds are already there. They might have to change the players, but other than that, they actually really have to change very little, except for maybe trying to make the graphics a little bit better every year. Now, I don't really play sports games, so that's not my thing. So let me put this more into like Entropia perspective. Think about Halloween Mayhem. They changed the entire Mayhem setup at Halloween, right? What did they really do? What did they really change? They did two things. A, they created a points-based mission, so the more points you got, it counted toward that mission, then you got an unlock once you reached a certain point. And they also went in and they altered the algorithm for how the creatures award points, and they set it to the higher level the creature, the more often it will award points / and/or mayhem tokens, right? That was it. Those are the only two changes. The instance was the same. Exactly the same. The creatures in the instance were the same. The damage type they did, the levels they were, how often the boss spawned, the type of boss, the type of damages it did, the fact that they awarded points for every kill, whether it be 0, 1, 5, 10, whatever. Everything else was the same, down to the 5-hour instance timer, down to you hit B to get to the global event list and go into global events to enter the Mayhem instance. Everything else was recycled. The only thing they did is they stopped making it a competition and they turned it into a points-based mission. The only other change was that the higher the level of the creature, the more likely it was to award big points. And if you can hear little one playing in the background with her squeaky toy, she is just squeaking away. So that is a good example of recycling. We see this not only in life but in video games. So logically, think with me. If pre-Loot 2.0, damage per peck was what determined loot composition, and after Loot 2.0, you have a different system, wouldn't it make sense that they didn't throw the damage per peck out completely, they just built onto it, right? Now, let's go back to what I originally said in my last video. The reason we know the higher the efficiency of the weapon of a gun, the better the loot composition, generally speaking, is because Mindark has said this. Now, I'm going to blow y'all's mind. This is Google. I have coupons good for one free Google search. I am giving them away to all of my subscribers, all of my viewers. You can all have a coupon for one free Google search, because Google searches are indeed free. You have to pay no monies to use this website here. And when you search for something on the Googles, it will give you all the answers. So if you want to find where Mindark said we are switching to Loot 2.0, under Loot 2.0, the higher the efficiency of the weapon, the better the loot composition, you can come to the Googles and you can try and find it. It is not going to be that difficult to find. The problem is, it is on Planet Calypso Forum, which is the cesspit of Entropia Universe. And I do not go to Planet Calypso Forum. So if you would like to go to the Google and try and find it on the forum somewhere, I promise you it is not going to be hard to find. It was said officially by Mindark that the higher the efficiency of the weapon, the better the loot composition. And this was said right about when Loot 2.0 came out. Okay? So if you want to find it on the Googles, you are free to do so. Now, let me clarify something I said in my last video, because apparently some people did not catch it. The group of people that is trying to argue that damage per peck determines loot composition, and the group of people, such as myself, who argue that no, Mindark was right because they created the game, when they say that efficiency determines loot composition, both groups of people are correct at the same time. Okay? So, let me further clarify the hypothesize the correct way. The correct way to technically say it would be that damage per peck used to, pre-Loot 2.0, be the determining factor for loot composition. However, with Loot 2.0, there are additional factors which result in the total efficiency rating of the weapon, with damage per peck by far being the largest part of the efficiency calculation. So, because damage per peck is the leading indicator of the efficiency of a weapon, it is still safe to say that damage per peck and efficiency are what cause loot composition to happen. Because damage per peck is the single biggest factor in efficiency. Therefore, damage per peck and efficiency both cause loot composition to happen, because they're both highly related. One is a ginormous piece of the other. Now, why do I personally believe that Mindark went to an efficiency rating at all? I believe it's because there were a lot of people that knew pre-Loot 2.0 that damage per peck contributed to loot composition. They knew this was an important metric, but I do not believe most players knew what their damage per peck for their weapon was. However, with the efficiency system under Loot 2.0, you pop up the info on your weapon and bam, it is right there. There is your efficiency rating. It is nice and easy to see. So I believe that is why Mindark did it. And I believe that is why they came out and said that efficiency, with damage per peck being the largest part of an efficiency rating, determines loot composition, is therefore the higher the efficiency, generally speaking. Notice I keep saying generally speaking. I'll get to that in a moment. Generally speaking, the higher the efficiency, the more desirable for the loot composition matter, right? That means players can easily see that these weapons have high efficiencies. They can easily see how this benefits them. They can easily see they should be willing to pay a lot of money for these weapons, and therefore there is a great amount of demand for these weapons. So this helps the in-game economy, as well as most players who did not actually used to take the time to do the calculations on damage per peck. So, that being said, let me prove a point here, and this is the point that I was trying to prove, air quotes, live in the first version of this video, where I tried to do the horrible Scotty doesn't know rendition. Damage per peck, hands down, is the largest portion of the efficiency calculation for a weapon. Hands down. Now, if my hypothesis is right, then what we should see is the highest damage per peck weapons in-game have the highest efficiencies in-game. The lowest damage per peck weapons in-game should have the lowest efficiencies in-game. That is why it is safe to say, since damage per peck is the largest factor in determining efficiency, that yes, damage per peck does have a ginormous impact on loot composition. That is why it is safe to say that hypothesis A, damage per peck determines it, plus hypothesis B, efficiency determines it, it's safe to say hypothesis C, well, efficiency is largely determined by damage per peck, so both statements are true. So, how do we prove that damage per peck is the leading indicator of a weapon's efficiency? Well, there's this thing called data. And what's cool is when you have a whole lot of data, you can put it into a thing called a database. A database then allows you to have a whole lot of data in one place where you can look at it and draw conclusions. So that is exactly what we are going to do, because we have a thing called the interwebs. And this was my basis for Scotty Doesn't Know rendition earlier. It was my own version where Scotty apparently didn't know that a thing called the interwebs existed. So let us go to the Google, and we will go to Entropia Wiki. And specifically, I want weapons. And I'm going to do this while flying. Okay, here we go. So here is the Entropia Wiki. Here are all the weapons in the game, people. So I am going to sort by category, efficiency. Go. So what I want to know is, according to my hypothesis, we should see a clear correlation. If damage per peck is by far the leading factor in determining a weapon's efficiency, then, like I said, highest damage per peck weapons in game should have highest efficiencies. Lowest damage per peck weapons in game should have lowest efficiencies. Let us see what we can see. Let's sort highest to lowest damage per peck. Now, remember, I'm not looking to see an absolute every single time my hypothesis has to be right. I'm looking to see in general. And we'll get to why in general matters in a moment, and why people do not understand that there can be exceptions to the rule. Here we go. Highest damage per peck weapons in game. Forget this one. I have no idea what weapon that is. And it doesn't have an efficiency rating anyway. Okay, we'll come back to the... Well, we won't come back to that because I don't even know what it is. I'm probably going to try and find out and make another video just about that. Hold on. I've got to spin the ship real quick. It's a constant find mobs and turn, find mobs and turn, find mobs and turn. And then I will head back to Arcadia SS here in just a second. We'll slowpoke it back. Turn the ship, turn the ship, turn the ship. So the reason it can have exceptions to the rule, and I'm kind of jumping ahead here because I'm having to turn the ship while I do this, is because there is not an algebraic logarithm here, guys. It's not algebraic. Okay, so highest DPP in game, 3.899, efficiency 79.5, 79.5. 3.888, 65.5, 75.5. So here we're going highest DPP to lowest, right? And let's go down the efficiency list. 79, 79, 65, 75, 86, 94, 65, 84, 84, 78, 94.5, 83, 92.5, 92.5. I would call those all extremely high efficiency weapons. They are all over 70. The only two exceptions are a 65.5 and a 65. So let's go to page number 2. Notice none of those had a low efficiency rating. Notice that all of those are uber high efficiency ratings. So the first page of highest damage per pack, all uber efficiency ratings. Yes, there were 2 that had efficiency ratings of only 65. Wow, only. Anything over 70 I consider absolutely stellar, absolutely amazing. Okay? Let me swing the ship real quick. Like I said, I'm not saying there can't be exceptions, and we'll get to why that is. It's because it is non-linear. It is not algebraic. It is a derivative function of some sort. Swing ship. Put mobbies in nice tight little ball. There we go. Okay, page number 2. 3.494 to 3.329 damage per peck. Efficiency ratings: 92.5, 66, 79, 91, 91, 92, 92, 88, 88, 87, 87, 81, 86, 86, 85. Wow. So the two pages on the wiki of the highest damage per peck in game have the most ridiculously high efficiencies in game. So far, we're proving my theory correct. Now, for giggles, let's sort by lowest damage per peck, and let's see if we end up with the lowest efficiency ratings in game. Because according to my hypothesis, if damage per peck is the leading factor in determining a weapon's efficiency, then by extension of the highest damage per peck weapons having the highest efficiency rating, the lowest damage per peck weapons should have the lowest efficiency rating. We should not generally see this massive overall correlation between damage per peck and efficiency being extremely closely tied together if they're not. We should see random numbers. The damage per peck should not have a way for us to really see a pattern here if there is not this massive correlation between the two. So let's search by lowest damage per peck now. I was trying to go back to page 1 before I hit the sort button. I guess my internet's being a little bit slow on the loading for some reason. Swing ship, swing ship, swing ship. Come on. I will just help you guys out so you're not sitting here bored. The page you're about to see is going to start off with like 0% efficiency, 0% efficiency, 0% efficiency, 2% efficiency, 1% efficiency, 3% efficiency. Because, like I said, I did this earlier live for the first time when I did my Scotty Doesn't Know rendition. Yes, it is massively correlated. Yes, damage per peck is the thing that more or less tells you what the efficiency rating is going to be. From everything that I've seen today alone, the damage per peck has to be a solid like 60 to 65% of the total factoring of the efficiency rating. So, I don't know why it is taking so long to load here. I will just let you guys in on a little secret. The lowest efficiency weapon in game is the Grindhouse Striptease Limited. The efficiency rating is 0. It is literally the lowest damage per peck weapon in game. Okay, here we go. Highest damage per peck, so now let's go to lowest. The second one is going to be the toy snowball launcher. That one was given away not this last Christmas, but Christmas before that, I believe, on, I want to say it was Next Island? I believe it was Next Island. As a Christmas gift, it's really cool. I've gotten to play with one, they're pretty sweet. Come on. There we go. Okay, Striptease. Lowest damage per peck in game, 0% efficiency. Snowball gun, 0% efficiency. So we've got the lowest damage per pecks in game. Let's run through the numbers. 0%, 0%, 0%, 0%, 0%, 0%, 0.2, 0.7, 3.0, 4.6, 6.2, 7.0, 7.4, 7.8, 4.0. Okay, so now at this point, everybody can shut up and just admit that damage per peck is the single largest factor in determining a weapon's efficiency. So whether you say that efficiency makes loot composition happen or damage per peck makes it happen, you're saying the same thing. It is exactly the same thing. The only thing you're leaving out if you're saying it's damage per peck is that there are other factors in determining a weapon's overall efficiency rating other than just damage per peck. We'll get to what those factors are here in a minute. So, that being the case, I want to ask you guys, how can it be possible that we can have exceptions to the rule? This is something a lot of people do not seem to understand. Most people only understand basic math. Most people understand algebra even if they don't know they understand algebra. If I tell you x equals 2, then I'm going to have a linear progression, whatever I substitute. So if I substitute numbers for x and x equals 2, what I get is when it's 1, it's 2. When it's 2, it's 4. When it's 3, it's 6. When it's 4, it's 8. It's a straight line. It's linear. It is a straight line. There is no curve to it at all, right? Now, you can have an exponential function, which is still algebraic, and is not necessarily linear as in flat. It is linear as in line. It doesn't, like, have a revision to it. But generally speaking, most people just get the straight line hypothesis. So most people think, well, if efficiency and damage per peck is related, there could be no exceptions. You couldn't have a uber high damage per peck weapon where the efficiency is only 65, and we know that exists. Well, yes, we know that exists because it's a derivative function. It's calculus. It's not algebra, people. So we know that efficiency is literally this huge, massive part of the calculation for efficiency. And then there's these other little bitty things like reload speed, decay, attacks per minute, ammo burn that goes into it. And there's such minuscule facts. How could they cause such a massive change? How could they make a 65% efficiency rating pop out on one of the highest damage per peck weapons in game? Well, because calculus can be kind of funny like that sometimes. So let me give you guys a real life example, and then we will go back to an in-game example. So let's use stock options as an example. Now, if you buy a stock, let's say that you want to buy a stock, doesn't matter what company, let's call it XYZ. You want to buy XYZ stock, and it's currently trading at $50 a share. You take $50 out of your pocket, and you buy one share. When do you have to sell it? The answer is never. You don't ever have to sell it. You can just sit on your butt for 10, 20, 30 years. You can even pass it on to your kids when you die. This is how Warren Buffett has made Berkshire Hathaway into the beast that it is, and this is why the argument, let's tax the rich, will never work. When you own stock, which most billionaires do, it's not cash that they're sitting on, it's stock, you do not have to sell. You do not create a taxable event until you sell, so if you never sell, there's never a taxable event, right? That means the stock can go up, the stock can go down, but you still own the stock until you decide to get rid of it. So this means that there is no risk from a time perspective. You are just literally waiting to decide what you want to do at what time. Now, a stock option is a derivative based off that same stock that is going to do a lot of things that mimic that same stock. However, there are additional factors at play. Okay? So let's say that that same XYZ stock is at $50 a share. And let's say that you believe that it's going to go to $75 a share by the end of the month. And let's say you believe this starting on the first of the month. You decide, I don't want to just buy the stock. I think there's going to be this massive uptick of 50%. I think it's going to go from $50 a share to $75, and I think it's going to do it in the next 30 days. What is the smart move? Well, with today being the first of the month, I want to buy stock options. I want to be able to put out less money and make more on the same move. So what you do is on the first of the month, you buy a call option with a strike of $50. This means if the price of the stock itself goes above $50, then you have the right to tell somebody who sold the option, I'm going to give you $50 a share for your shares. You give me 100 of your shares now. Thank you very much. And it doesn't matter what the price is in the market. It could be $60, $75, it could be $3,000. You take the 100 shares that you're buying from them at $50 a share, and you turn around, you sell them on the open market. And now you've made a huge profit because anything above $50 a share is profit. And on an options contract, you are getting 100 to 1 leverage, meaning each options contract controls 100 shares. So somebody is giving you the right for the next 30 days to buy 100 shares of XYZ at $50 a share. You think it's going to go up. You think it's going to go to 75, if not higher. Now, you're not going to pay them a lot of money for this, but you are going to pay them some money for this. So what you're going to do is you're going to give them $5 because they don't think the odds of this happening are very good at all. Okay, so here's how it works. If by the end of that month, the price does indeed go up, then you've made money. However, if by the end of that month nothing happens and you're either at the same spot you are now, $50, or the price actually goes down, at the end of the month, on day 30, those options are now worthless. You only have the right to buy them from this guy for the next 30 days, right? So, this introduces into the derivative equation something that the owner of the stock does not have to deal with, that the owner of the stock option does have to deal with. That is called time decay. Now, time decay is algebraic, but it is not linear. It is exponential. Okay? So what that means is that on the first of the month, when you buy it, you have a lot of time left and very little chance of this not happening. However, by day number 29, most of that time has been ate up, so the odds of it happening in one day are very, very bad, right? So, if you pay $5 for your stock option on the 1st, so let's say on the 2nd, it hasn't moved, it's still at 50. Well, how much time decay have you incurred? Not very much. Your stock options are probably now worth $4.99 because it's only been one day. There's not been a lot of time decay. Therefore, there's been very little change. You've lost a penny. However, let's say that it is the 29th, the beginning of the 29th, and it still hasn't moved. You're still at that same $50 strike price for the actual stock, right? Well, over the past 29 days, your stock option has gone from being worth $5 to being worth $3. $2 got ate up in time decay in the past 28 days. However, on day 29, your stock option is going to go from being worth $3 to being worth 6 cents. Why is that? It is because the odds of it happening in that one day are super, super low. So on day number 1, time decay only costs you a penny. On day number 29, time decay costs you $2.94. Okay? That's an exponential function. Most people are aware of what an exponential function looks like, even if they don't know what it is. So, this is why stock options have different derivative factors that affect them that regular stocks do not. Because with a stock option, there is a point in time when it becomes worth $0. All that money you paid is just gone. That is not true with a stock. With a stock, if you paid 50 and it goes down to 25, and 8 years from now it's still at 25, then your $50 hasn't just gone down the drain. It's just you're waiting on it to go back to the price that you paid. It does not go down the drain until you hit the sell button, which you never have to do. Okay? So it could go back to 50. You could hit sell. You've lost zero money. It just took you 8 years to do it. It could go to 300. You hit sell. Now you've made money. It just took you 3 years to do it. Even though looking at the screen it looks like the stock is down, it is not truly down until you hit that sell button, at which point that money's thrown down the drain. Not true with a stock option. With a stock option being a derivative, you throw the money down the drain right away. And then everything else comes after that, right? Because there's a finite lifespan. So, that being said, there is a second factor related to real life stock options I want to talk about, because it will also become important when looking at efficiency. Another reason stock options move is because of volatility. Now, the easiest example here is, let's say that you bought a stock option, but instead of it being a 30-day option, you bought a leap. You bought a long-term anticipation option, right? And let's say that you bought it on January 1st, 2022, and that stock option does not expire until January 1st, 2025. So you've got like 3 years, right? Okay, for the first year, for the first 33% of that stock option's life, there's going to be very little to no time decay involved because you have so much time to work with. So to put this into perspective, if you paid $5 on January 1st, 2022, on January 1st, 2023, you would still have so much time left that your stock option would still be worth like $4.95. There's very, very little time decay because of how long the term of the option is, right? So, that being the case, and I am really going to have to slow poke it back to Arcadia with all the damage we're about to get. I'm going to have to pull over and do several repair runs. So, with that being the case, if the stock doesn't really move, then the time isn't really going to move the ticker either, because there's virtually no time decay for that first year, right? So let's say 3 months in, the stock hasn't moved, and time decay isn't really affecting you. Then you wake up one day, and you find out that your stock option is worth a small fortune. However, when you check the price of the stock, it's still $50 a share. So nothing has changed. Well, what happened? Time decay isn't affecting it. The price of the stock itself hasn't changed. These things should be moving in tandem, given that it's a leap. When the stock goes up, the price of your call should go up. When the stock goes down, the price of your call should go down. However, the stock hasn't moved. So we know it's not the underlying asset that's making the change. We know it's not time decay that's making the change. What is making this massive change? Why is your stock option now suddenly worth money? It is most likely due to volatility. Volatility is simply market sentiment. So, let's say that company XYZ manufactures widgets. And let's say these widgets have to go through an extremely long, extremely hard approval process through a government regulatory body. All right? Now, let's say that while you were sleeping that night, you'd bought your option 3 months earlier, the stock has not changed. News breaks that the President of the United States is completely doing away with all the regulatory bodies needed to approve widgets, meaning that company XYZ can now mass produce widgets as fast as they possibly can. However, the government is for some reason putting a price control on widgets where the price is now going to be $900,000 a widget, and yesterday it was $1 a widget. Okay, so XYZ company is about to make a small fortune, and by the way, the military is going to be buying these things up like they're bottles of water to send to troops. So the market sentiment is XYZ is about to make a ton of money. Now, that means that the stock should be going through the roof. However, for whatever reason, the stock price itself has not moved. However, the sentiment has. So even without the stock price moving, the price of XYZ stock options are going to move drastically. So volatility itself, you don't need any other factors. Just volatility will do the trick, okay? So a good example of this that I did, I wish I had done it on a larger scale, but it was almost like a black swan event. Years ago, whenever I very first got into any kind of trading and options and all that, they were talking about possibly downgrading the creditworthiness of the United States for the first time in history. And this would have been a black swan event. This would have been something you could not have seen coming. However, they were actively talking about it like all week on TV, if you watch like the Financial Channel, about how this was like suddenly a possibility. So knowing this, I was like, well, you know, it'd be one thing if I just woke up and the creditworthiness of the U.S. was downgraded. However, they've been talking about it all week. I could see the credit rating people doing this just to kind of prove a point. Now, if that happened, it was going to drastically affect the banks. And at the time, bank stocks were already in the toilet because this is in the middle of like the 08-09 recession. I call it the 07-08 recession. But I think this was like 2009. So I think at the time, Bank of America was trading at like $7.50 a share, right? So that Friday, with the options expiring the following Monday at the end of trading, something like that. It was very close. They didn't have much life left in them at all. I think the options were like a whopping like $3 for 3 contracts or something like that. It wasn't much money, but you were more or less just throwing $3 down the tube. Well, I bought put options, and I think I only got like 2 or 3 contracts for like $2 or $3, saying that they would go down before the end of expiration, which was literally like the next trading day. So that was Friday afternoon. So I go to bed and I wake up Monday morning, and sure enough, the creditworthiness of the United States had been downgraded for the first time in history, and Bank of America stock had gone from like $7.50 to like $5. It was just above $5 because $5 was some super important level for some reason. There's some regulatory thing with it. So off that one trade, those little 2-3 contracts I bought, I made like $800. Well, if the stock had gone down, you know, $2.50 and I'd bought the actual stock, I would have lost $2.50. I bought put options, meaning I could buy them for $5 and sell them to people for $7.50. So because I was using leveraged contracts, and because it was more than just the price of the stock moving, because it was the sentiment that was moving, it was the volatility that was moving to the extremes. That's what gave me the extreme differential. I made $800 instead of $250. So all of that extra was accredited strictly to the volatility move, to the fact that this was such a shock to the market system that it impacted the price of the derivative. So the reason I bring that up is when we look at efficiency ratings, we are looking at more than damage per peck. Damage per peck is the price of the underlying stock, the underlying asset. It is going to usually make up the vast majority of the calculation. However, there are other factors that can wildly affect the efficiency rating of a weapon. Just like time decay and volatility can affect an option derivative, weapon decay and ammo burn can affect an efficiency rating. We know this. So it's kind of oversimplifying it to say that efficiency is just a mixture of damage per peck, and then with a little bit of decay and ammo burn built into it, that is a mass oversimplification. I did a comparison side by side in a previous video, and what I found is I looked at the BP20, the regular limited version most people buy, and then I looked at the BP20 FEN because it's a weapon with high efficiency that I'm super familiar with. These two weapons have a 20% efficiency difference. 20%. The base model is 63.2%. The FEN edition is 83.2%. So the question I was asking myself is, what is it that's accounting for that 20% difference? What is it that is affecting that? Well, the first thing I noticed is that the BP20 FEN edition has a slightly higher reload speed. This is why the base model does like 37 DPS and the FEN model does like 41 DPS, is because there's an extra 8 uses per minute. This means it has slightly higher damage per second. This means it has higher damage per peck. So yes, that damage per peck being a huge part of the calculation, that drastically swings it from 63.2 through the roof. However, the FEN edition also has 10% less decay and 10% less ammo burn. So the problem is, I don't know to what extent the ammo burn and the decay affect the efficiency rating. I haven't seen the algorithm. I do not work for MindArc. They do not like me, so they're not going to show me even if I ask. But we know it does affect it, because if your weapon uses less decay than normal and less ammo than normal, you are indeed being more efficient. I do not believe that 10% less ammo burn and 10% less decay contribute 20% to the efficiency rating. I just do not, from everything I've seen from all the other weapons I've looked at. I believe what is doing it is indeed that extra 8 uses per minute, that extra reload speed, giving you that extra little bit of DPS, because you're getting more damage in each minute, therefore you're getting more damage in each second. Therefore, your damage per peck is higher. I believe that is probably a solid 12 to 15% of that 20% difference between the two weapons. I believe damage per peck has that big of an impact on the efficiency rating. Then, looking at the decay and the ammo burn, and them both being 10% better, I believe that's probably the other 5 to 8%. So, when we look at these weapons that have some of the highest damage per peck in game, but an only 65% efficiency rating, we are looking at those weird events where it's being affected by something other than damage per peck. Almost every weapon on that list had an efficiency rating over 70. Most of them being in the 80s and 90s, right? The highest weapons in game, which if you would like to donate any of the highest damage per peck weapons in game, if you just do not like them because of their efficiency rating, you can donate them to Stevie B, that's STEVIE, B as in boy. You can PM me, I will take them off your hands for free anytime you want to get rid of them. So looking at some of the weapons that had that 65% efficiency rating, what I noticed, they are all a base model, or very, very close to it. What this means is, yes, they have a massively high damage per peck. However, their uses per minute was in line with what we would see in a regular base model. If I've still got the wiki pulled up. So if we go back to highest damage per peck first, I'll show you guys the example that people tend to be yelling about with this whole damage per peck argument. The base model BP20 limited has uses per minute of 68 uses per minute. The FEN edition, with the much, much higher efficiency rating, has uses per minute of 76, so 8 additional uses. So, if we go back to the list, one of the ones that people like to yell about is the BP130, which is a very rare gun, 3.888 damage per peck, but only 65.5% efficiency. So let's pull this one up real quick. As I slow boat it back to Arcadia. There we go. Okay, So if we look at the stats here, what we see is the BP-130 is a base model weapon. Notice there's no designation after it like adjusted, improved, modified, perfected, FEN. It's just the base model BP-130. So the range and the weight are the same on the BP-130 as they are on the BP-20. Okay? Attacks per minute, 68, same as the base model BP-20. Now, yes, it does have a super, super high efficiency rating. However, looking at the decay, looking at the ammo burn, and being able to compare these other things, my conclusion is this. If MindArc ever wanted to make a higher efficiency rating BP-130, if they ever wanted to make an improved, modified, adjusted, perfected, whatever, what they would do is three different things. Let me get the spaceship a little bit further out here. Give the mob some time to catch up. So let's say MindArc woke up tomorrow and decided they wanted to put some new items in the Mayhem Token Trader. I don't see them doing that for quite some time, but let's say they did. And let's say that one of them was going to be a BP-130 modified. What they would do is they would increase this attacks per minute. Increasing the attacks per minute by even something like 8 attacks per minute would increase this damage per second. Not a lot, but just enough. Let's say it only raised it to like 127, 128 HP per second, right? They would also decrease the decay by 10% and decrease the ammo burn by 10%. So giving that extra 8 uses per minute would indeed raise damage per peck. It would raise it substantially. Then decreasing the decay and the ammo burn 10% would be enough to affect the calculation to the tune of 20%. So if they mimicked the BP-20 FEN on the BP-130 and they just increased the uses per minute by 8 and decreased the ammo burn and decay by roughly 10%, then this would have an efficiency rating of 85.5. It would be a 20% difference. So why is this a high damage per peck item, but it's maintaining the base efficiency rating? Because it's got the base attacks per minute, it's got the base decay, and base ammo burn. This is like having a stock option that is not affected by time decay because it's a leap. Having a stock option that's not affected by volatility because there just isn't any market sentiment to the right or to the left. This is like having a stock option where the price of the asset itself is not moving, so your uses per minute are the same. By keeping the attacks per minute, decay, and ammo burn the same, all those other things that go into the efficiency rating have not moved. They're all sitting at baseline. So the baseline with an extremely high damage per peck seems to be 65. That is why when we look at the highest damage per peck weapons in game and we see those outliers, they are all exactly 65. It's literally 65, 65, 65.5. So what does that tell me? That tells me that the damage per peck is 65% of a weapon's efficiency. Just right off the bat. No matter how high it is, it's not going to go above 65% of the total calculation. It is just not. However, that is assuming that all the other base stats are the same as all the other base stats on all the other weapons. Pull up any BP weapon, you should have 68 attacks per minute. The equation is essentially set based off these being the norm, the standard, the starting point. So it is not until you manipulate these that you see a change in that efficiency rating. It doesn't start at 0 attacks per minute, even though that would affect the damage per peck. It doesn't start at 0 ammo burn. It doesn't start at 0 decay. It starts at some baseline. Again, I don't know the actual algorithm. So if we increase that reload speed by only 8 units, by only 8 uses per minute, we are going to affect the damage per peck. Yes, it's going to push it up even higher. However, that is not going to get us to a 94% efficiency rating. It's not going to get us to an 80% efficiency rating. Only when we increase that uses per minute by 8, thus affecting the damage per second, thus affecting the damage per peck, and decrease the ammo burn and decay by 10%, only then would we see an efficiency rating of 85.5. So, that being said, the people who are arguing that efficiency doesn't matter and it's all damage per peck are not realizing what I'm saying here. It's not algebraic, it is a derivative. It is calculus. Damage per peck pre-Loot 2.0 was what determined loot composition. Mindark has came out and said damage per peck is by far the largest determining factor in efficiency, and they have said that the higher the efficiency of the weapon, the better the loot composition. All of these things are true. Everybody is correct. Nobody is wrong here. And we have proven it with data from a database. We've got data. High damage per peck weapons, high efficiency ratings. Low damage per peck weapons, low efficiency ratings. So there is no more argument. I've taken you guys through this. I've broken it down as low as I can without actually seeing the algorithm and telling you exactly how it is made and what accounts for what portion of the calculation. This is the best that I can do, okay? If you do not get the concept at this point, you are not going to. If you don't understand it thus far, I'm sorry, I cannot help you. However, if you do, I hope that I have given you insight not just into the game, not just into efficiency ratings, not just into stock options. I hope I have given you insight into how things are recycled. How people who develop games go in, take things they already have, and recycle them. And just build on them and alter them. I hope you guys have taken that away also. I do hope everybody's learned a little bit about stock options. I hope we've learned a little bit about calculus. I hope we've learned a little bit about all of that. But to endlessly have this debate that it's damage per peck and not efficiency that determines loot comp is insanity, because you're saying the same thing. Efficiency, largely speaking, the biggest chunk of the efficiency calculation is simply the weapon's damage per peck. However, that decay rate, that ammo burn, those things do have an impact also. So I will say what I said in my last video. If you are using the highest damage per peck weapons in game, you are using the highest DPS weapons in game. You're putting out more damage per second than you can possibly imagine. If that is the case, a 65% efficiency rating is really not going to hurt you compared to an 85 or 75 or 92% efficiency rating, because you have the best DPS in game. That means you are hunting the best mobs in game. That means you are hunting the mobs with the best loot pool in game, which means that you are going to have the best loot composition in game. Even if your loot composition isn't quite as good with your high DPS 65% efficiency weapon as it would be with a similar high DPS 94% efficiency weapon, you're still going to be making money hand over fist. You are still going to be one of the best players in the game with the best results in the game, and everybody is going to want that weapon, and it's going to have a pretty large price tag to it. This is part of the reason I believe Mindark at some point is smart enough to say, hey, we don't need a BP 130 perfected. It would do no good for the game. Because at some point they cannot just make infinitely stronger mobs with infinitely better weapons, with infinitely higher profession requirement levels, with infinitely better loot pools on those mobs. At some point, there has to be a cutoff. There has to be a point where people are either dedicated enough to the game to get that high of skill level and to invest that kind of money in gear, or not, right? And we've pretty much reached it. By the time you get to any of the weapons that we're talking about, you've either put in years of effort and years of skilling and years of just grinding and cycling ped and learning the game and learning the mechanics, or you have not. None of these weapons are going to be cheap. They're all going to cost a small fortune. So at this point, it makes no sense for Mindark to come out with a BP 130 modified that has an 85% efficiency rating. It just doesn't. I do like what they did with the recent Mayhem restocking, where they did make the Nano Blade and the Nano Blade modified, and they're going to be the new highest DPS weapons in game. I do like what they did with some of that stuff. However, there's a difference in doing something a few times and overkilling the crap out of it. And to just go in and constantly make higher quality, higher DPS weapons, they would just be killing the crap out of it. So I'm just going to leave it there. I don't know what else to say on the subject. That's it. I'm not going any further with it. Call me out on it all you want. If you want to call me out, just keep watching the video over and over again. For those of you who don't know, a thing called the internet exists. Coupons for one free Google search to all the viewers. Google's free. You don't need the coupon. Just go Google whatever you want to Google and try and be as informed as possible. So from everybody at earnped.com, I've been Stevie B. Sip, sip, smack, smack. I am done with all this foolishness. If you want to help support us, go over to earnped.com, because when you earn, we earn. That is by far the best way you can help support us. Please also keep us in your prayers, as we do have a lot going on in real life. Prayers are definitely appreciated, as this is probably the most important mission of my life. So, for everyone at earnped.com, I've been Stevie B. We hope you all have a great time. We will be back with more content for you later this week. Until then, keep an eye on your efficiency rating, keep an eye on your damage per pack, and we hope that you have a pretty good loot composition mix in your loot pool. Take care, Stevies.